Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something really fun. We are pitting cold, hard data right up against human intuition to answer the ultimate question, who is actually going to win the 2026 Soccer World Cup? We're going to dive into the numbers, analyze the top teams, and break down exactly what you can expect from the biggest tournament on Earth. Okay, let's dive right into this. 48. Just let that number sink in for a second, because it's going to change literally everything we thought we knew about this tournament. For the very first time in history, we've got 48 nations competing on the global stage, spread out across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The sheer scale of this is completely unprecedented. And naturally, an expanded field brings a staggering 104 total matches. Because of all these extra teams, we now have to navigate an entirely new knockout phase, the round of 32. So what does that actually mean? It means more games, a whole lot more cross-country travel, and a significantly harder, more grueling path to the trophy. Honestly, predicting a winner has never been more difficult. So this brings us to the real hook for today's deep dive. In a field this massive, who will conquer the world? Are we going to see one of the historic heavyweights rely on their pedigree to push through? Or will a dark horse rise up from this expanded pack and shock everybody? Let's start with part 1. The data-backed favorites, and what the supercomputers actually say. To find our first tier of contenders, we looked at 100,000 tournament simulations run by the hybrid random forest algorithm, and this brilliantly illustrates how cold, hard math approaches the beautiful game. Essentially, this supercomputer doesn't just care about past wins. It blends historic team stats, expert bookmaker odds, individual player ratings, and even the crowdsourced market values of the squads to predict exactly how the tournament is going to unfold. And when the digital dust finally settles, the data points to 3 distinct favorites. According to the Opta supercomputer, Spain leads the entire pack with a 16.1% chance of lifting the trophy. That's roughly a 1 in 6 probability, which is massive. France follows closely at 13%, and England is sitting right there in third with an 11.2% chance. Now, what's really interesting about this is exactly why the data absolutely loves Spain right now. Look, this isn't that slow, rigid tiki-taka possession game from 2010. Manager Luis de la Fuente has completely transformed them into a lethal, quick attack system. I mean, they went unbeaten in their qualifiers, they won Euro 2024 while scoring a record 15 goals, and the whole thing is spearheaded by the 18-year-old sensation Lamine Yamal. The machines absolutely eat up this blend of youth, speed, and raw scoring efficiency. But right on Spain's heels, we've got 2 totally different titans. First, there's France, bringing unparalleled, proven pedigree to the pitch. They won the whole thing in 2018, were runners-up in 2022, and they boast an incredibly deep talent pool led by Kylian Mbappe. Contrast that with England, who are riding this wave of flawless form. Under manager Thomas Tuchel, England had an unbelievable qualifying campaign. They won every single game without conceding a single goal. Just incredible defensive perfection. Moving on to part 2, defending the crown. Even the GOAT is cautious. When we shift our focus away from the cold logic of the machines and look at the emotional reality on the pitch, the narrative completely changes. Just listen to this quote from the captain of the defending champions, Lionel Messi. He recently admitted, "There are other favorites that arrive in better form. Unexpected things always happen." Now, it is incredibly rare for a reigning world champion, let alone a living football legend, to publicly lower expectations right before a tournament. He knows firsthand that past success guarantees absolutely nothing in this sport. And you know what? Messi's caution perfectly aligns with the data. The supercomputer only gives Argentina a 10.4% probability, which ranks them 4th. So why the drop? Well, because unlike their magical underdog story in Qatar, they're arriving in 2026 with a massive target painted right on their backs. The psychological weight of being the reigning champions, the one team that absolutely everyone else wants to beat, is incredibly heavy. Let's look at part 3. Giants seeking redemption, the rebuilders. These are the historic powerhouses who are absolutely desperate to bounce back from some highly public, recent international embarrassments. Honestly, there is no greater contrast in world soccer right now than Germany. On one hand, you have this incredible historical pedigree as 4-time World Cup winners. But on the other hand, their recent past has been genuinely traumatic for their fans. I mean, they've suffered back-to-back group stage exits in 2018 and 2022. But make no mistake, Germany is aggressively reinventing itself. Manager Julian Nagelsmann has implemented a highly structured system built entirely on sharp pressing triggers. And he's making some really bold squad choices. He coaxed 40-year-old goalkeeping legend Manuel Neuer right out of international retirement, while simultaneously injecting this thrilling, creative youth into the attack with playmakers like Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz. Then we have Brazil. Now, they endured a surprisingly awful qualifying run. They finished 5th in the South American standings, dropping points in matches they traditionally dominate. The crucial point is this. Brazil is now managed by Carlo Ancelotti. The man is a proven tournament mastermind. You simply cannot count out the most successful nation in World Cup history when they've got one of the most successful managers in the modern game at the wheel.
Which brings us to part 4, Dangerous Dark Horses, Unleashing the Underdogs.
Look, with the expanded 48-team format and that brutal extra round of 32 knockout match, this tournament is an absolute breeding ground for massive upsets. Each of these underdogs has a very specific X factor that makes them incredibly dangerous to the big guys. Japan has this amazing, cohesive, club-like synergy. Norway features the sheer, terrifying goal-scoring power of striker Erling Haaland. Ecuador boasts a truly elite defense. I mean, they conceded only 5 goals in 18 grueling qualifying games. And of course, there's Morocco, the giant slayers who stunned the whole world by making it to the semifinals back in 2022. What's really fascinating here is how completely different their strategies are. Take Norway's firepower. They smashed in 37 goals in just 8 qualifying games, relying super heavily on superstar finishing to basically just outscore their problems. Compare that to Japan's cohesion. They literally defeated a stacked England team in a recent friendly, and they didn't do it with individual superstars. They did it through flawless, collective tactical discipline. These are 2 completely different paths, but both are equally capable of ruining a favorite's tournament run.
And finally, part 5, The Verdict, Man versus Machine.
So we've seen the data, and we've heard from the folks down on the pitch. Where does this actually leave us? Well, I want you to remember this number, 495, because 8 of the 12 third-ranked teams will now proceed to the knockout stage under this wild new format. There are exactly 495 possible permutations, just from mapping the group stage winners to the round of 32 matchups. The bracket is going to be pure, unadulterated chaos. The supercomputers have absolutely done their best to model it all, but at the end of the day, human emotion, sudden injuries, and sheer luck on the day are going to rewrite the script. Which leaves us with one final massive thought. With more teams, more games, and more variables than ever before in the history of this sport, will the 2026 World Cup ultimately belong to the cold, data-backed favorites selected by the supercomputers? Or is an ultimate underdog going to rise up and shock the world? Honestly, that unpredictability is exactly what makes this beautiful game so captivating. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you all next time.